Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Reese here, and welcome to the Legend of the Ghost Train Q&A. Now, sadly, this is probably going to be a very short video because I do not have that many questions lined up. But I got some pretty good ones, and I took some notes, so I will be ready to answer them accordingly, so I can keep track of, what I'm answering. All right, so I'm going to start with the newest ones, and then I'm going to go to the older ones. Now, some of them I've noticed are the same as others, so I don't know how I'm going to be able to answer those. I'll try to answer them separately as I can, but yeah, I got some good ones here. So let's get started from the newest. Where does the Great American Railroad run to and from? A very good question. The Great American Railroad is actually it starts all the way from Maine, and it travels all the way to Ohio, West Virginia, and Virginia. So basically, it's all over the northeastern United States. But the engines are headquartered in New York, which is kind of a midpoint, and basically they go left to right. Technically, they'll go all the way from Maine to Ohio, West Virginia, and Virginia. So it's all over the northeastern states. The Great American Railroad is actually a support railroad. So it assists, the New York Central, the New Haven Railroad, the Boston and Maine Railroad, that kind of stuff. It's all around there. It's like a support railroad, like a sidekick, quote unquote. If the railroads are too busy to take care of things, that's where the Great American Railroad comes in. It'll handle all the goods trains, all the passenger trains, because, during the 1950s, trains are still a big deal, so they come in to assist. Now, some of the trains actually have paint jobs from their previous railroads, like Vance from the New Haven Railroad, and Kimberly from the Boston and Maine. Basically, they still have those paint jobs so they can show where they came from. So basically, they wanted to keep their old paint jobs, as a reminder of where they came from, because home is kind of a special memory to them. I know nobody asked this, but I thought that was a fun fact to include. So that way you can understand why characters have those paint jobs, even though they're not from those. They don't work on those railroads anymore. Let's see. In the sequel, are you going to have some steam locomotives that have been preserved by tourist railroads and restoration groups? That is a question that I keep getting, or a suggestion that I keep getting all the time. I got some bad news, guys. The series is not going to go in that direction, at least not for the time being. But it is an interesting idea. I can't say where the series is going to go, but as far as the preservation storyline, it is interesting. Part 2 is not going to be about that. But now that you mention it, if I do decide to make a part 3, no promises, but it's possible, that may be an interesting direction to take things. But I can definitely say right now, part 2 is not going to go in that direction. It's going to be something completely different. So I'm very sorry, guys. For those of you who were looking forward to that, I'm very sorry. Let's see. Did you ever think to have another steamer in the movie? Actually, when I first did Legend of the Ghost Train, I had the story in my head for years and years. Let me see. When I first wrote the story, it was going to be about steam engines. Let's see. Kimberly actually started off as a character named Joey, and they were going to be a boy. But I had trouble deciding if Joey was going to be a steam engine or a diesel. But eventually, he evolved into Kimberly, and Kimberly is a diesel engine that you see today. So, and also, strange. Morty evolved from a character called Billy Blue that I had. Billy Blue was kind of Percy, Joey was Thomas. Billy Blue was a smaller locomotive, and obviously he evolved into Morty, who became a more pessimistic, older, grizzled veteran. Gasoline switcher, so he's kind of upset. He hates having to put engines down, but yeah. Yeah, Legend of the Ghost Train became a much darker story than I originally planned, which would have been slightly more family friendly, but I didn't have as many resources and a big budget like I wish I had, so I had to do things a little differently. I had to get more creative with the story. What company made Jebediah? There's two ways I can answer that question. I'm not sure if you're asking who made the model or who made the locomotive. Who made the locomotive, the real-life locomotive for Jebediah? He worked on the Jersey Central Railroad before he came to the Great American Railroad, so I would say... I think he's a Baldwin locomotive, if I'm correct. You'll have to forgive me, because this one is... His model was kind of hard to determine, but he looks a lot like a Baldwin locomotive, so I'm going to have to say that. But, he's definitely a Mikado due to his wheel arrangement. I definitely know that. If you're talking about who made the model, his model was made by a company called Mantua. They were an old train set company that made engines. Someone mentioned they had a Mighty Mike Mantua train set, and that's where I noticed. When I bought the model from a neighbor of mine that was selling their model trains, I wasn't sure about, companies and stuff like that, because they were all different types of locomotives. The Jebediah engine was one of them, so I'm not quite sure if he was in a train set or not, but Mantua was the company that made the engine. Is the Great American Railroad a subsidiary to the Central New Jersey Railroad? Well, like I said, it's kind of a support railroad from for the Northeastern railroads, like Boston and Maine and New Haven and all that good stuff. It's a support railroad. Like, if things get too heavy on the big railroads, Great American Railroad just steps in and, helps out. Also, what year did Daniel crash? And what years did Paul, Jefferson, and Morty arrive? So let's see. I may have to answer that a bit out of order for my own sake. But when the Great American Railroad was first formed in the 1900s, basically Jefferson, who worked really hard, he was still in good shape, but obviously he's an older locomotive. So 1901 was when the Great American Railroad was formed, and Jefferson came from the Pennsylvania Railroad, so he was the first one to get there. Morty came to the Great American Railroad right after World War II, so 1945, like right after it ended. After he worked at a military base, and he left there right after the war ended because he didn't really have anywhere to go. The military didn't really need him anymore because they had everything taken care of. So he was sent to the Great American Railroad to help out with shunting duties, and then eventually he was placed in the scrapyard because they weren't sure where to put him. So they just decided to give him a job there. Let's see. And Paul. Okay. Yes, Jefferson crashed in 1950. So he was dead for 9 years. Hold on. Yeah, 1950. 1950 was when Jefferson crashed. Not Jefferson. Daniel. Sorry, I apologize. Daniel crashed in 1950, and Paul is an Alco PA. They were built between 1946 and 1953, so Paul was built in the middle of that. But Paul didn't, because you notice Paul had a custom paint job. He was built straight for the Great American Railroad. He didn't belong anywhere else, so he came to the railroad in 1950, like right after Daniel had his crash. So technically Paul was Daniel's replacement, but he knew nothing about Daniel. They never said anything to him. But Paul did find steam. Paul always had disdain for steam engines. He always thought they were worthless, and as you can tell, when Jebediah was, slowing down and Morty was helping out, there were other diesels on the railroad, but most of them have moved on, or some of them you don't see on screen because they're all busy and everything. But yeah, Paul was basically just was just built for the Great American Railroad from the beginning. So that's why he was sent straight there, and he didn't have a railroad paint job, he has a custom one. So, yeah, there's that one. In Legend of the Ghost Train, why did the ghost kill Jefferson if Jefferson was a steamy like him? Actually, Daniel did not kill Jefferson, actually. Jefferson just got scrapped. As you can tell, he was built in the 1800s, but he came to the railroad in 1901, so he's pretty old. He's worn down. Great American Railroad did a poor job of maintaining their steam engines once the diesels started showing up, so that's why Jebediah isn't really in the best of shape. He's doing slow freight trains, and Jefferson's in the scrapyard. So he got scrapped because he was going insane. And he saw the ghost, but he didn't. Daniel never said anything to Jefferson, but Jefferson could tell that, this ghost had malicious intent. Not towards him, but towards somebody. Jefferson could tell, and this is what drove him insane. So, the ghost didn't kill Jefferson. Morty did. Or, not Morty, but the scrapyard workers did. So, yeah, that's pretty much what happened. He got scrapped, as you could tell. I actually had fun filming that scene because it was really fun. Just had to shake it. I had the lights turned off. I shook a flashlight. And the editing, I just made it super fast. I had a lot of fun doing that one. Let's see. When is the casting call for the sequel of Legend of the Ghost Train coming out? I don't have a set date for it yet, but it's definitely coming soon. It's definitely coming soon. I can't say when exactly, because I've been pretty busy volunteering at this organization right now. Well, it's kind of a mutual volunteering. Like, I'm helping them, they're helping me. I'm helping other people as well, and these people are helping me too. So, it's kind of complicated with that. So, I'm trying to get things going with Legend of the Ghost Train 2 and the Gordon video, but things are keeping me busy, so it's probably going to be a while, so I'm very sorry, guys. Okay, John, love Legend of the Ghost Train, and I hope I can voice in it. Bye. Well, I will have the casting call up when it's ready. So I wish you good luck, or break a leg. Can you do a sequel to Legend of the Ghost Train? Well, yeah, of course. I already announced that I was going to do it, so... sorry, I didn't mean to sound rude, but yes, I am definitely doing it. A sequel is coming. Now this is a question I get asked a lot. Is Thomas somehow connected to this? If so, how? Thomas is not part of Legend of the Ghost Train. Legend of the Ghost Train is its own thing. It was inspired by Thomas, so that's pretty much all I can say about it. The old Thomas series definitely inspired it, and as you can tell, Legend of the Ghost Train looks kind of like Season 1, but like much, much cheaper. So, yeah, the most I could say is that Thomas inspired the series, or the film series, whatever. But he didn't. But he is not going to appear in the series anytime soon. So I'm sorry, guys. Let's see. Any other questions? Let's see. Yeah, that's pretty much all the questions that I've got. So I hope that these were satisfying answers. I'm sorry if you came out disappointed after watching this video. I'm very sorry, guys, but, this is my vision as a director, so I can take... But I definitely love the ideas. I love the input. I'm very grateful for you guys. I like the reservation idea. If I do decide to make a part 3, maybe I'll use it. I can't say for sure. That depends on how I feel about the story of the second one and where it goes from there. But the reservation idea, or the preservation idea, is definitely something I may do for part 3 if I do decide to make one. But yes, thank you guys so much for participating in this. I wish I had more questions to answer, but I don't know. It's okay. It doesn't really bother me. I'm grateful that some of you were able to participate, and I appreciate it. So thank you guys very much, and I will see you soon. Peace out.